Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's webinar on SAP Security Redesign in the context of SAP S/4HANA transformations. I'm Abhijit from YES Technologies, and I'm delighted to have you all with us. We truly appreciate you taking the time to be here. As many of you know, moving to SAP S/4HANA is not just a technical upgrade, it's a strategic shift. And with that shift comes to the need to rethink how we manage security, compliance, and governance in a modern SAP landscape. Today's session is designed to help you explore how a well-structured SAP security redesign can close legacy authorization and compliance gaps, embed audit-ready ITGC controls, optimize user licensing and role structures, and ultimately build a smarter, safer SAP environment aligned with your transformational goals. We are fortunate to have with us a panel of experts who have led some of security and GRC transformation across industries. We have with us today Mr. Khaja Khan, who is our Vice President and Head of SAP Security and GRC practice at Yash. We have Khalid and Girish, who are our Principal Architect for SAP Security and GRC. And we also have Sri Lakshmi, who is our Solution Architect. They will walk us through a real-world redesign journeys, share practical frameworks, and answer your questions at the end. With that, let me hand it over to Khalid to take us through the session. Before we start, just a gentle reminder to all of us to ensure the mic is muted during the session to avoid any background noise. Thank you so much. Over to you, Khalid.
Thanks a lot, Abhijit. Thank you so much, everyone. So today I will be giving you a walkthrough about the security redesign engagements. So here is the agenda. So broadly, I have classified this agenda into two sections. The first section is talking about Yash capability on SAP Security and GRC services. And the second section is the topic of the webinar, how are we going to execute or implement, take care of the security redesign engagements there. So let me quickly jump on to this our security and GRC services portfolio. I'll be spending very few minutes on this area, but let us spend more time on the topic of the webinar there. So overall, as Yash is a company with a strong force of 9,000 employees and with a journey of 29 years, and out of them 4,500 are the SAP consultants there. So what we are seeing on this slide is specifically to the security and GRC team. So we are a very strong team of 100 plus security consultants who are spread across the globe, both India and across the globe, US, Europe, and all the continents there. And there are certified consultants, and a total cumulative experience of our SMEs goes into 30, 40, hundreds of years there. So there are SMEs who have seen maturing the SAP product from the version 4.0 to till the latest HANA, S4HANA versions as well. The SMEs who have seen maturing the GRC product from the Versa tool to till GRC version, and also the insights to the future release of GRC version in 2026 Q1. So having said that, so far we have executed 250 plus projects for diverse kind, including implementations, rollouts, conversions, upgrades, all sorts of projects there. And bottom of the slide, we have listed out few of our latest and the current customers, wherein we have delivered them diverse services to them. This slide, we have listed out the services that we offer. So we offer end-to-end services, including from implementations to rollout, conversion, upgrade, and of course, security redesign. And then we also have the application management services. This slide also extends, it carries the extended information of our services. The first column, you see the GRC area, wherein we offer end-to-end services on all the GRC applications, including access control, IAG, process control, risk management, etc. And the remaining 3 columns are something which we have tailored services for our customers. Now, if you look at it, the second column, the assessment and recommendation, the recommendations one, that is something which we have in the recent times, we have worked on so many customers there, because the customers were going for S4HANA conversions. They wanted to understand their the current posture, the security posture, or the posture from the compliance perspective. So they are reaching out to us. So we are offering them an end-to-end comprehensive and well-structured with a methodology, the assessment part. And not only that, we also give the recommendations to fix those issues or identified gaps there. And then we also have the audit assistance program there, wherein we help our partners to meet their the compliance challenges there whenever they have the external audits, or even before the external audits. When they reach out to us, we have a structured approach towards it. We help them in the documentation, we help them in identifying the issues there, we help them fixing those things, etc. And the last column is a very interesting one, the license optimization part. Definitely it is also one of the topics for the today's webinar, so we're going to talk in detail about it. Yeah, and this is a slide where we just want to convey the message that we have very strong COE structure here, the lab that is being built here, all the latest versions of SAP, we get them implemented, and our consultants or SMEs will get the first-hand exposure to those versions, the products of SAP there, and they learn, they upskill themselves, and that benefit is definitely passed on to our partners there. So that is in brief about our capabilities there. Now let us jump into to the topic of SAP Security Redesign. Now, in the context of SAP S4HANA transformations. Now, the first question normally when we look at this sentence we get is that why are we mentioning the context of SAP S4HANA transformations, right? So basically, over a period of time, when we are delivering the projects on the conversion projects, let it be what do you say? I mean, it could be a greenfield implementation as well, because some of the customers who are on the legacy EC system and managing those systems from over a decade or 2 decades, they might also go for greenfield implementation, or you might have a conversion, or brownfield conversion, right, bluefield conversion. So whatever be the type of the conversion, one of the key questions that the customers these days are asking is that, if we wanted to go for security redesign, or if we want to clean up our authorizations in the systems. So the question, the pertinent question from the customer is that when should we go for it? Whether should we do it before conversion, or should we do it before transformation, or during transformation, or post transformation? So the answer for this one is that it depends upon the case-to-case basis, and also the customer's objectives that they want to achieve during this conversion period. But on top of it, I can just say that there are pros and cons for each of the approach the customer takes, whether they want to get the redesign before conversion or during conversion, and also the post conversion. All of them have their own pros and cons. But especially if they get it, this security redesign, or set their ERP systems house in order from the authorization perspective, what they can do is that they will be focusing only on those T codes which are required, that needs to be converted to Fiori apps. That means they during this security design, all the garbage, all the not necessary, unnecessary authorizations, all the bloated authorizations, everything can be removed, and a perfect design would be in place. And the customer, when they go for the conversion, they'll be actually focusing only on those T codes that is required for the business. That way, they're going to reduce a lot of rework, lot of testing efforts, and a lot of unnecessary efforts into analyzing even the custom T codes which are not required after the conversion, etc. So that is one of the, we can say that the key benefit, and that is the reason we have mentioned here security design, especially in the context of the transformations. Let's dive into this topic here. If you can see here, this slide is reflecting certain stats here. So these stats are actually obtained from the leading research and advisor firms like Gartner or PwC or Accenture. So the gist of this slide is that both the compliance leaders and as well as the companies increasingly are identifying the need and the compulsion to increase their spend on the compliance requirements. Like 90% of compliance leaders now say that, the spend on the compliance requirements or regulatory requirements are increased at least by 30%. And even the companies or organizations are equally recognizing the fact that their spend on the risk management has increased. Now, the core behind these stats that contributes to this compliances is that the security design in the ERP system that is being set there. So now, in the next slides, let's look into the causes why the security design is required, what are the benefits out of it, and are there any additional benefits that we can draw out of the security design, and a complete comprehensive approach, how should we do it, both from the technical and non-technical perspective. At the end of the webinar, I'm sure the participants will have a fair understanding about how to execute an security redesign project, especially in the times of this S4HANA transformations there. The first question normally we get here is that when we want to go for security design, we got multiple stakeholders who will be part of this engagement, and stakeholders end up using these two terms, role redesign and security design, interchangeably. Now the question is that, are these two terms same? Do they mean the same, right? Now the answer for this one is that, definitely not. Role redesign is a subset of security redesign. Security design is a comprehensive term which will not only involve the role redesign, but also it addresses the configuration part, the compliances part, the security framework part, security strategy, and there are a lot of other stuff. So it comes up to that. Okay. So now that we have here, let's say, try to understand the triggers or the causes or the factors that leads to the security design. So one of the key trigger is the compliance requirement. Of course, if any organization now would like to move for or enforce SOX compliance, so they need to look into their access setup into the system. There they have to go for it, and then of course, most of the organizations are maintaining these ERP systems, systems from over a period of decade or more than a decade or 2 decades. So over a period of time, for sure, when the security support team was there, and the teams keep on changing, and the cascading effect will, the teams will be losing the best practices there, and systems end up accumulating a lot of roles or authorization setup which do not adhere to the SAP best practices as standard recommendations there. And then we might even see the roles, a lot of roles which are unused, or we might also see the roles with bloated access, which is actually not required there. Or during the period of upgrades and the conversions, upgrades that happen over the period of the versions from ECC 5, 6, or EHP 8, whatever the versions those systems have gone through. So they end up carrying the obsolete T codes as well, obsolete authorizations as well. So it is that could one of the reasons that those authorizations must be cleaned up there, and security design needs to be set in order there. And in some cases, you will also see the organization restructuring. Possibility is that the companies will go for some acquisitions, or there are also possibilities that some line of business has been sold out, and you have to carve out those particular business out of the central system. Even in that case, you have to readjust all the organization structure there, and accordingly all the roles have to be set up in order to avoid any redundancy or any data capture by virtue of having those authorizations with the users access, or at least in the system as well. And also, of course, an important topic of custom T codes. All the systems, all the organizations which are maintaining the systems for a period of decade or two, they are carrying a lot of custom T codes. In some cases, the custom T codes have become irrelevant. In some cases, they are not. Those functionalities have been brought in by certain upgrades or versions there. Maybe they might have to taken out. So all these things has to be addressed there. There can be many other reasons as well, but listed a few of the reasons here, which actually results into the security design expectation from the stakeholders there. Now, if you can see, what we have seen earlier is the causes. Now here we see what could be the benefits of security design. So if you can see on the right side of the column here, where we can see that improved business resilience, that is something, that is the goal and objective of the security design that we want to achieve. And I mean, under this business resilience, we can say that whatever the effort that we're going to put under this engagement, it has to result some kind of improvement in the operational efficiency, also the reputational uplift, because the organizations will adhere and they do declare that we are SOX compliant, etc. So it's a kind of reputation lift, all these things. So but in order to achieve this one, you can say that these are the areas that we have to focus on. The first area is that on the design part, like the security, the framework that needs to be set up, a security strategy should be in place. Now, what does the security strategy contains? It contains everything. It contains our approach for how should be the future custom T code should be designed, whether the authority check command should be, how should it be, included into it, and when should be the security team should be involved whenever a custom T code has to come there. A custom Fiori app needs to be included, whether it has all the parameters from the security side, and even if it is included from the technical point of view, whether into the SE24. So those are all the SAP standard recommendations that process can be set up into the security strategy, including the parameters that we set up into the system. So that security strategy and all the documents which will be listed on the first column, they should and must be the living documents for an organization. So any changes during any period of time should be updated in those documents. And at the same time, the organizations need to set up a periodic review of this document, so that anytime when any stakeholder or any compliance team, audit team wants to look at that thing, it should be the most updated documents there. One is security strategy. Next is the processes, user administration, end-to-end user administration processes, role administration process. All of them has to be tailored and should be put up for which should suit the organization's requirement there. And then you also have the user and role naming conventions. And the model that we are going to suggest and put, as part of the revised design, it has to be scalable for any other future upgrades or any other future conversions, or for any other new components that comes into picture, for any other add-ons that will be included into that S4 system there. That is the first thing. On this foundation, on this core, these are the all the activities, the tasks, technical tasks has to perform the system. What are those tasks? So you will have an revised and optimized authorization matrices. That is, what is a role versus authorizations, a role versus T codes or Fiori apps, or you can say, are the access that into that. Then to take out all the unnecessary roles, are the redundant roles there, are obsolete access have to be taken out. Then you have to make the roles as SOD free. So all these things has to be done as part of that. And whatever the compliance requirements that an organization has, so make sure that design adheres to that. And when all these three things, whatever the tasks or whatever the line items listed in these three boxes here, when the checklist is done, then we can expect then improved business resilience, which would be the core objective of security design there. Now, once we discuss that, so is it something only security design, or can we do something more on it? So the answer is yes. Of course, we will have an opportunity, we in the sense organizations do have the opportunity to work on and get the SOD compliance, and at the same time a few optimizations. So what we have done is that we've added few slides here on SOD compliance and as well as a few optimization. So we will talk a little more when we go on those slides there. Okay, now when we understood the reasons, the causes, and the benefits of security design, let us try to understand how do we execute this engagement. So we have given a very high level approach here. It has 6 phases here. Phase 1, 2, and 3. These 3 phases are unique for the security redesign engagements. And 4, 5, 6 are, these are regular phases that you find in the regular implementation methodology, agile methodology. Regular implementation methodology there. So the first 3 parts, that is one thing, prerequisites. We will look into them. some technical, some non-technical, very core prerequisites there. We have a slide, we'll talk more on it. Then we got an security assessment and planning. This is must, and we'll try to understand why it is must for the security engagement. Then we got a revised security design. How should we do it, right? And the rest you have phase 4, build, test, GRC update. These are the regular phases that for any other engagement that we see it. We are going to touch upon them briefly as we toggle between these slides, and we're going to come back to this core slide there. Now, let us focus on the phase 1, that is the prerequisites part. So what we did here is that we have put together on a very high level the 4 key core prerequisites for any security design engagement. The first thing is that, what we have seen when we were working with the customers is that, we need to understand the objectives and the goals of the security redesign, whether the customer only wants security design, or the customer also wants to include the SOD compliance into that, or they also want to include the FE optimization part. Because what happens is that, FE optimization and SOD compliance, all of them are going to increase the efforts and also the timelines and the efforts from the different relevant stakeholders there. So first is that, baseline, draw an agreement on the objectives of security design. That's the first step we have to make sure that. Second thing is that you can also look into the stakeholder engagement. So who are all the relevant stakeholders that are required for this engagement? So we have a slide for that. What are all the teams we need to involve for this engagement? So that's also a very key requirement. And then the comprehensive security assessment and the action usage. These are the technical things. Whereas, in the comprehensive security assessment, what happens is that, we have got additional slides on it, and we're going to talk more on that. So basically, that security assessment gives us the current security, the posture of the ERP system there. So once we understand that what are the issues or gaps into that one, so we will be able to quantify the efforts required in order to fix them. So we will not end up over budgeting the efforts in order to for the security design project, or will not end up under budgeting it. So we'll see that more. And the next is that action usage, a T code usage. So the idea and the best part of security design is that it is an opportunity, because what happens is that when any customer goes for a fresh implementation, so they will not be sure about what kind of T codes, what kind of authorizations, or what kind of apps are required for their business to be executed, what suits to their business, etc. So, but for the customers who have already using this SAP for a period of time, they do have an understanding that what kind of authorizations are required for their complete business tasks there. That means for a period of a financial year, so if we get the data of the T codes used or the authorizations used for a period of financial year, that means that is the entire list of T codes or entire access information that particular organization requires in order to deliver the business task in the entire year. So it is recommended that we have the T code usage information for a period of 1 year, but it is also fine for a smaller organization. For 6 months is also enough. Now the question comes, how do we get this information? One way is that if the customers are having, if the organizations are having the GRC, whether it's an SAP GRC or any third-party GRC as well, that particular GRC system normally captures this T code usage information. So we can get that information. Or another thing is that if they do not have GRC, one of the way to get is that workload monitor, etc. So that could be that gives us an at least the pointers towards what T codes are required for an organization there. And yeah, so these are prerequisites there. So the first phase is prerequisites. Now the second phase is that security assessment. So if we look at it, what we have done is that we have put up a very high level, approach in order to execute an assessment there. First stage or first phase in this one is capturing all the analysis phase where we identify the gaps. Second one is the phase where we have to implement those changes there. So the second phase is definitely is part of our security redesign. We will implement those changes, which are the findings from this assessment there. So what you can see is that, on a very high level, all the documentation, all the literature around security would be reviewed, studied, identified, the gaps will be identified, and then we will extract all the necessary information from the systems to review the configuration, the security configuration, the system parameters, etc. And then you got user authorization data, the control testing is there, etc. So, we'll do all that analysis, and finally we will have the reporting there. And the report not only contains the gaps there, but it also contains the recommendations there. So what I would prefer is that to show you one of the report or one of the assessment work that we have done to one of our latest customer here, so that we'll get just an understanding about how it looks like. So if you can see here, these are all the areas which we have focused on this one during assessment there. And then this is the metadata kind of stuff, that high level information, that how many roles are there, like total unassigned roles, etc. here. And then the methodology which I discussed already there. And then this dashboard, we're showing that the findings of those reports there. Let's say that we have done total 127 security checks there, and then 15 are green, 76 are in red. So you can see the roles with the risk are, there are 130 roles for this particular customer, and the users who are with high risk are 705 there. And this is the information on the ITGC controls. So what we do whenever we go to a customer for an assessment, we have our inventory of ITGC controls, and we'll sit with the customer and the stakeholders, the process owners there, and would eliminate or will identify the most suitable or applicable ITGC controls with them. And once that is being finalized, we will do the assessment of those ITGC controls for their systems there, and we'll identify the gaps there. And in this case, you can see on a high level, how does it look like? Basic security has got 33 deviations there. And whatever these things is there, we got Excel information here, so that every finding is it has got the appropriate data justification. What are those issues here? Like, for example, let me pick up one here. Okay. So we can see here, this about SOD part here. So all the information, all the data, and including the recommendation, etc., would be shared with the customer there. So if I come back to the slide here, and here, for each observation and the recommendation, you can see that there's an observation here, inactive dialog users there, and then you got the yes suggestion. How do we need to fix that? So likewise, you will find all the observations here and the recommend how to fix that, right? That is on those controls there. Then you got FU part. So we'll come back to this FU analysis in some time. So let's go back to our slide here. So this assessment will give us the complete understanding of the current security posture of the landscape there. So far we discussed about prerequisites phase 1, phase 2 security assessment and planning. And so based on the outcome of the assessment, we understand what are the gaps and what are the efforts required in order to fix those gaps, so we can likewise plan it accordingly. And then we need to focus about security redesign. So let's come to this one. So what we did here is that we have put up a few guidelines from the SAP best practices when we look for the security design there. The first thing is that we recommend, and that whenever we are going to put together our roles definitions, etc., it has to adhere to this key two key principles. One is that the principle of least privilege and the principle of segregation of duties. So one is that the least privilege, we all of us do understand that the technical role that we define, it should have minimum access but sufficient enough to deliver a business task there. So make sure that, and that particular role should not bring on any other T code which would be a conflicting one. So basic should be this one on this core principles. Whenever we're grouping any T code, we have to make sure that it's going to adhere to these principles there. And then we recommend that leveraging the SAP functionalities that SAP has suggested for design, like master role, derived role concept, composite roles for a kind of job roles there, and then single roles, enable roles. So make efficient usage of this one, right? and also try to keep the T codes in the minimum number of rows. I mean, try to reduce the redundancy of T codes in the rows as much as possible there. So that is also a key recommendation there. Of course, if we have the GRC system, definitely it is going to help us for the SOD compliance. But we will discuss more again on the GRC part as well. And then likewise, as we were discussing, there's a kind of 4-tier role architecture. Like you got tier 1 with non-sensitive access into this one, like all the access that every user, a generic user, or what do you say, generic access will be clubbed into it. And then you also need to have the display access roles, probably at the process level or sub-process level. And there could be certain processes where we find that those processes are very sensitive. So necessary that we can come up with an design in such a way that there can be a common display role in that sub-process, and there can be a restricted display access role as well. And then the functional access, that is the change or update access, and then you've got critical access. Now, this information looks pretty simple on the slide, but it is very important. Reason being, we end up, that means we in the sense our team who is supporting the systems there, they might sometimes end up adding the access, that is change access to the display access. That will break the recommendation there. And what happens is that it also falls into your ITGC control violation and it is also an SOD compliance issue as well. So over a period of time, when this kind of accesses mismanage happens, so it is going to break the the security design there. So that is where when we do that ITGC controls assessment, whether it's in the quarterly or half yearly, whatever the periodicity we keep it, so that kind of gaps we can identify to make sure that such kind of mismatch do not happen going forward. But adherence to this one is key to that. So basically, of course, again, so whatever we have given the principles as part of phase 3, those things should be considered for sure. But at the same time, our functional SMEs are going to play a key role into this revised security design phase there. Whatever the slice and dice of the roles that we're going to do it, that we do it in conjunction with our functional SMEs and also our process owners, and also the compliance team would be there. And at the same time, when we are looking for the security design, we should also have that action usage, a T-code usage report that will help us, that will set us the boundaries that what are all required and what is not necessary access into this one. Take out all the obsolete access there, remove the redundant roles also, all kinds of that information we're going to study, and we're going to come up with a revised security design there. So these first 3 phases are unique for the security design, and the rest of them are regular one. Like for example, once we are okay, once we got an approval on the matrices there, role versus T-code or role versus apps approval, everything is being got it there, whatever the changes were suggested there, then we'll jump into the system and start building those roles, or building those changes, implementing those changes in the system, and all the end-to-end test cycle, whether it is again we need to perform the unit testing, again the functional testing is to be performed, again positive test, negative test, or regression testing, and at the same time UAT has to be performed. There should be a core team, and they should understand the changes there, and they should be able to perform and also validate that yes, this particular role is giving the necessary access there. And of course, the functional team has to come up with the scripts there with the relevant T-codes. And if there is any change in the existing process, we need to involve the OCM as well, organization change management team, also to look into these changes. And if there is need for any training module to be developed, we need to take care of that, and that information and that training has to be passed on to the relevant business users who are going to perform this task. Reason is that this kind of project, though, when during cutover and access adjustments, we have to make sure that appropriate access adjustments are done, because what happens is that when we go live, the user might say that I used to have this kind of access just a week back, but now I'm not having that access. So we should be able to justify those questions, and if there is any miss, we should be able to fix that. So 4, 5, 6 are very key phases, but of course it has got a regular practice that we normally done for any implementation, etc. there. So this is an end-to-end high-level approach to execute and security engagement there. Now, what we were talking from the beginning is that apart from security design, there are additional 2 things that we were talking about. One is about the GRC role, and other is that FEO optimization there. So let's spend some time on those 2 things there. Okay.
Just a quick time check.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have completed 30 minutes of the session. So you may please feel to pace accordingly. Yeah. Also a request to all attendees. So if you'd like to ask any questions, please feel free to raise your hand and we'll unmute you. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Abhijit. Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So let me talk something on the GRC part here. So let's say that a customer is having a GRC system already in the landscape. So what happens is that we need to we need to generate all the user analysis report, risk analysis report, role risk analysis report, user risk analysis report, and all the information from the GRC system before redesign. There's the first step we have to do it, and that would be our baseline to validate what kind of work we have done and what is that we have been achieved there. Now the second step is little, what do you say, critical. Now the reason why I'm saying this critical is that I can easily say that we can validate pre-design and the post-design. That's an easy step to say, but as a partner, what we have seen is that most of the customers they end up using the standard rule set. So the first question when we get to the partner, we need to ask them, the customers need to ask them that whether their rule set is relevant to their business. Now, if the answer is no, that is where we also need to include the efforts in order to validate that particular rule set and make it business relevant for that organization. So we need to do the first step, that one. And second key factor is that whatever the custom T codes which are in the design, and if they are sensitive, and if the process owners feel that they should be monitored, and now we have to look at that whether they have been updated into the GRC rule set or not. That is the second main what do you say task that we have to do it. So once we are relatively confident that the GRC rule set is being business relevant, that's first task. And second thing is that about the custom T codes, if they are also updated in the GRC rule set, that means that is the appropriate rule set. Against it, we have to do the analysis there. Now, definitely, once that is being done, that particular rule set, that particular updated GRC, we can use it to do all the SOD analysis while we are slicing, dicing the rules, or creating new rules, etc. That is going to give us the best, what do you say, the outcome there. As the final stage, of course, once the project is completed, we can rerun all the same what do you say, same reports again, and then we have the pre-redesign reports and then post-redesign reports there. We can do the analysis there, and we can identify what is being achieved there, how much percentage of the violations that we have seen, and what we have got there. So all that information we can have it. So in this way, GRC can play a constructive role, but we have to make sure that GRC has the right rule set already updated there with that. And the final, but it is very important one, because SAP has changed its approach of licensing there. So it has moved from SLA, USMM SLA type of approach for licensing there. Now it has moved for FU licenses there. So it has got, it is giving certain nodes, getting implemented on the system, and it's extracting the information, and it is analyzing the licensing based on the user's access. That is what SAP is doing for S4. So most of the S4 customers, but I think SAP is also planning for to do the same kind of exercise for ECC customers as well after certain EHP levels there. But having said that, it has become increasingly difficult for the customers to manage their licenses, because this is something a key pain point that customers has shared with us. So we thought of putting together an workable, pragmatic of FU optimization approach, and we also have delivered this kind of engagement to the customers there. Now, what we did here is that we have put together here a 6 steps process for this FU activity there. As the first step, we are going to extract all the necessary information, that is user activity logs, user access levels, everything, and we'll assess it and try to understand the existing licensing status. Now, the outcome of this step 1 could be, it is possible that the customer might be underutilizing its licenses, agreed license there, or it is also possible that they are in breach of contract there. So underutilizing we are happy. The organize when we report it or when they look into it, they can look in, talk to the customer, renegotiate it, and save certain dollars. But if they are in the breach of the contract, then they have to end up paying the heavy penalties there. So that first step, if we include with this security redesign project, this kind of assessment, license related assessment, can also be part of the actual overall engagement there. And in the one shot, we can also deliver the license optimization part as well. That's the step one. And the step two, this step two and step one are mutually exclusive tasks. That means we can work on both the tasks simultaneously. Now, what does step two does is that step two is about understanding the actual license requirement for an organization. Forget about the access requirement, the technical access requirement, or existing access requirement in the system. Look into what customer actually requires. How are we going to look into it? That means we need to understand all the job roles that can be identified for a business to run there, and for those particular job roles, what kind of task roles or technical or access that we require. So we need to get the mapping of the list of all the actually the operating model of the organization, and hence the job roles, and then map to the technical roles, task roles, and based on the task roles, because SAP now as part of licensing is looking at the access levels. So for those task roles, identify what kind of license requirement, whether an advanced license required, or whether professional, or basic license required. So that kind of mapping we can do. So that step two will give us the information of to be information, which will have complete matrix of operating model, job roles, was task roles, against the task role, what kind of license requirement. And then once this is being ready, we have to go for mapping the users versus roles mapping there. And once you do that mapping, you'll get the what kind of license requirement is there for the particular user. So once that matrix is ready, we will understand how many licenses, or what is the requirement there for an organization. So that is step two. Now in step three, we will do the analysis of the current licensing posture, and to be licensing posture, and whatever the gap is there, that is the quantum of work that we have to do. So that is the area that we have to focus. So that's the reason as step 4 would be the actual FU optimization. There is license optimization work is there. Now, how to do it? So few of the strategies we have laid out at the bottom of the slide. So possibility is that we have to, clean up the display rows, that like I was talking in the 4-tier architecture, we might end up, adding the change access into it. We have seen a customer where certain change access, some access which as per SAP it's a change access and is being included into the common role, the general role, the tier 1 role. Now, because of that particular access, that organization has ended up from all the users, because that will be assigned to all the users, and it has ended up for all the users it is an advanced license there. So that kind of impact or implication a security design is going to have on the licensing part there. So that is something we have to look into it. That is the reason this comprehensive assessment and including this licensing part will help us to understand how can we reduce the licensing requirement there. So clean up those display rows and then limit the developer access. That is, of course, we normally all the customers do it because we have a focus on it. And then we should be very clear on the the movers, levers, joiner, mover, lever process, because the moment the employee leaves, we need to have a SOP around it, like its roles have to be timed. It has to move to levers group and it has to be removed there, so that we're going to save that license there. Then we got here again, we might have the user accounts which are dormant, so we need to take that out. So, and we should also even look into the batch users, the system users, what kind of access is there. So all of them, we have to look into that, and we have to tweak the access and optimize that requirement. So step 4 is about license optimization as an execution part. So once that is being done, 1, 2, 3, 4, then others two steps are a kind of monitoring. The 5th step is that we have to put a system or a process in place in order to keep monitoring the license usage or FU usage there. And the final thing is that we need to set up a process at least quarterly or once in 6 months to audit the license utilized there. That way the organization can avoid any, the consumption or breach of contract, or will be able to use the license optimally there. So this is the overall end-to-end process there. And okay, so let me jump on to the slide where we have done these things here. So I'll show you the slide FU part here. So we've also done the FUE optimization part to one of the same customer we listed out here. So what you can see, the top data is just an information, and you can see here roles versus objects, making role and as advanced. So we have identified the roles by virtue of the object it is making as an advanced. So all those users who are going to have that role will be marked with an advanced license there. So what are all those roles we've identified? We have an Excel sheet, we have got the data in place, and that object is not necessary for that. So it needs to be discussed with the process owners and needs to be fixed that. And then you can also see user versus roles, what roles are contributing for the advanced license there. So all these things are there. And here, suggested here, optimization. How can we optimize there? Less number of roles assigned to users will lead to less number of FE utilization there, kind of. And here top 10 users with top 10 roles, etc. So all this information we do as that as part of assessment there, and this is the SOD analysis part there here. So that's there here. So let me come back to our presentation here. All right, now the final question is that normally we have this question, so who should we involve into this engagement? Of course, security and GRC team would be working on this one. Then we should definitely involve the functional SMEs there, who would be understanding, what T codes or what app needs to be grouped in a role, right? They would be doing the functional testing and script preparation, help with the UAT, and they can also act as an interface with the process owners there. And then we have got ABAP team and technical team. They would be looking into what you say, the custom T codes. We need to get all the inventory of the custom T codes, look at the applicability. Are they still relevant to the business or not? Eliminate which are not relevant to the business, only list down which are relevant, and then focus on that. Then look into those T codes for their authority check commands. And once we have those authority check command information, then we need to identify whether they are being mapped to the SU24, and accordingly they have been included into roles. And once, even if they're in the roles, if they're in the design, then make sure that those things are also updated into the rule set, the GRC rule set, so that they do not go unchecked or unnoticed or unmonitored. So the users might have those T codes in their profile, but the system will show a false negative that as if they do not have them, right? So they're going to help us in that. And definitely the process owners were going to help us to reviewing and approving whatever the changes we're suggesting on the secure design, on the role design, etc. And then of course the audit and the compliance team will be approving all those changes. So these are the necessary teams that we require for security design project there. So I would like to pause here and would like to hear if any one of you have any questions, would be happy to take them. Abhijit, you can unmute if anyone has any questions.
Yes, yes, Khalid. So we have a few questions which I have received. So let me put it on our chat, and I'll also announce it for in the interest of everyone. So, okay, so the first questions which we have received is, what are the most common legacy security gaps you encounter during SAP S/4HANA transitions? So maybe you want to put some light on this. Yeah.
All right. I mean, basically, so mostly the customers were, focusing on the custom T codes was one of the big pain point during conversions. So whatever the customers we were working on, one of the key pain point area for them was custom T codes, because legacy systems for a period of decade or 2 decades, they have accumulated a lot of custom T codes, and then those roles which have them, some of the functionalities might have been addressed to the latest versions there, and some of and some of the thing maybe they have become obsolete. So the systems are already carrying them, so they wanted to make sure that those custom T codes are sanitized and cleaned up. Only a relevant applicable T codes has to be brought into that. That is one of the key area. Second thing is that about the obsolete T codes which are there in the system or in the roles there. Third thing is that the bloated roles that we have, right? And fourth thing is that the batch users was one of the big challenges there, the access assigned to the batch users. And then you also have the integrations, because most of the customers have got number of integrations, 10 integrations, 20 integrations. Now, the kind of access that has been assigned through to the users, there is RFC users for those integrations. So we end up, that was the practice earlier, decade, 5 years, 10 years, the people used to assign the wider access to those RFC users, etc. So they end up having, even now SAP is even charging for those users as well. So you have to make sure that whatever the relevant access required for that particular integration, that has to map there. So these are the few of the issues reported by the customers during the conversion there. So my team, I want anyone to, if you want to add up there, you can just add there. Sri Lakshmi, Girish, anyone there? If you want to add
Khaled, I just wanted to add few points. I think you have already covered the prime points, the gap that we find when we move from legacy to S4. And there is one more thing which I want to add is based on my experience and observation, the appetite of the organization to move on to S4 new methodology and the applications that have been delivered, like the Fiori applications, and their interest in adoption of those applications. So that is also one of the primary point, even though that comes at the latest at this stage. Like obviously it's not a gap part, but it is something new for the customer. So sometimes they are not ready enough to go for all the apps in one phase because they first of all need to go through some workshop to identify what benefit they are getting with those new Fiori applications. And as you said that some of the transactions are obsolete, and for that we have a replacement Fiori apps. So that is also one of the information that we have to pass on to the customer, that because mostly like on business side, there is a comfort zone that they are using some transactions since ages, and then all of a sudden there is a new UI and new screen. So they also need to be comfortable or comfortable with those applications, and the workshop is being taken for the business that they have to use it. So this is one of the area which I wanted to add in to the point that you have listed.
Thanks, Girish. Yeah, Abhijit?
Yeah, thanks, Khalid. Thanks, Girish. Yeah. I think we have one more question. So, are you using any tool to do the license analysis? So it's from Mr. Nitin. So, any insights on this?
Yeah.
Are you using any tool to do the license analysis?
Let me take this one. Khan here. So basically, we are not using any tools. It has to be a manual process enabling one of the key parameter. Along with that, user trace and the usage of the, whether you have a GRC or any third-party tool where you can basically analyze the transaction or app usage. So this needs to be done manually with multiple reports and figuring out, the usage of the user and then adjusting. So either you have to create a separate role based on the license type, or you have to remove the access. So bottom line is we are not using any straightforward tool that can analyze the FUE optimization, but it has to be manual effort coming from multiple report extraction and analysis.
Thanks a lot for that answer. Yeah. Yes, so we have, I think, a couple of more questions. So here we go. So how do you recommend prioritizing authorization cleanup during a security redesign?
See, authorization cleanup is one good practice that you need to perform, because whenever you are going for a redesign, upgrade, or any conversion, this is the right time to perform any of the cleanup, whether it's coming from your ITGC control findings or any of the the legacy data that you have carried forward from version to version. Now, it really depends some of the manual controls that you have to perform with respect to ITGC. At the same time, if you are not having any GRC or any third-party tool, just try to ensure that you don't have any violations within the roles. Obviously, user violations will exist because of multitasking, but at least we have to figure out the ITGC controls manually and just try to perform that cleanup and go with the minimum access while you are building the design. At the same time, ensure that you have a mechanism, whether with a GRC or third-party tool, you don't add any SOD violations within your new design. Okay. Hope I answered the question.
Yeah, thanks, Kanza. Yes, so we have one more question which have just popped up. So, how are you identifying the relevant Fiori apps for corresponding T codes, and what mapping approach are you using?
Can I take this one? Okay. So, anyways, like for the obsolete transactions, there are, SAP provides a table through which we can identify if there is any existing transaction from the legacy system is replaced by a Fiori application. So we can find out this information from there. However, for the new applications or the new Fiori application which are there, I'll give you a brief example. Like MM02 is a transaction which has a material classification functionality, but in S4 that functionality has been moved on to a Fiori application. So that information you can find from that specific table. It's PRG and underscore core2. And for the new adoption of the new Fiori application, the usual methodology is that business should get the information that what the application is for and how it is being used, what it facilitates. So for that, usually like functional team drives a workshop there, they shows different applications, and also they analyze it themselves as well based on the business structure, which application would be like apt for the business and facilitate the business in the best way. And if the business is ready to move on with the new S4 processes, so surely they would need to adapt more of the Fiori application. So this all examination and analysis happen at that time of the project.
Thank you so much, Girish. I think that's all. I think the questions we had. Yeah, all right. So thank you so much, Khalid and team. So that was an incredibly insightful session. So on behalf of all of us at Yes Technologies, I'd like to extend a big thank you to all our speakers for sharing their deep expertise, and to all of you, our attendees, for joining us today. If SAP Security or GRC is your current priority for your organization, so we are pleased to offer you a complimentary SAP Security and GRC assessment. Our team will reach out to you to see if you had like to explore it further. So we hope today's session gave you valuable takeaways to support your transformation journey. So until next time, stay secure, stay future ready, and thank you once again for being with us. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.